Deep in the cold silence of a Martian research base, where human voices are the rarest sound of all, a 10-year-old boy named Illy opens his mouth and speaks in a language no one has heard for 10,000 years. The moment the words leave his lips, the ancient alien ruins just beyond the facility's walls pulse with a light that shouldn't exist. Scientists scramble as their artificial intelligence struggles to process the translation. The words aren't just unknown, they're impossible. A dead dialect of the Xal'thari, the so-called gods who ruled the stars before vanishing without a trace. And then, as the room falls into stunned silence, Illy whispers 5 words that rewrite history. They're not gone, they're waiting. What follows is a mystery buried in the bones of Mars, a child who shouldn't hold the key, and a truth so terrifying it was meant to stay forgotten. Stay with us, because by the end of this, you'll question who the real gods are and what they want with us. But the mystery only deepens from here. Dr. Liora Vasquez, the lead xenolinguist, sprints to capture every word falling from Illy's lips, her hands trembling as she realizes the horrifying truth: his phrases aren't random. They're an exact match for the fragmented inscriptions carved into those ancient ruins, the ones humanity has been struggling to decipher for decades. And then, without warning, Illy goes rigid. His voice cuts off mid-sentence, his small frame frozen as his gaze locks onto the ceiling. What comes next isn't speech, it's a whisper so cold it chills the room. The Harbinger is coming. The words hang in the air for 1 heartbeat, 2, then the lights die. Every screen, every machine, every last flicker of power in the facility snuffs out at once, plunging them into a darkness so complete it feels alive. And in that silence, one thought echoes through every scientist's mind: whatever Illy summoned, it's already here. But before anyone can process the darkness, the facility shakes, not from an explosion, but from something far worse. A low hum vibrates through the walls, a sound that shouldn't exist in the thin Martian air. Then, through the observation windows, the sky splits open. A massive, shadowy ship materializes above them, its jagged edges mirroring the same twisted hieroglyphs etched into the ruins. The scientists stagger back, but Illy doesn't flinch. His eyes are blank, his movements mechanical as he steps toward the airlock, murmuring the same phrase over and over: "They've been calling me." Guards rush to grab him, but their hands pass right through him, like he's already halfway to somewhere else. Then the beam hits. A column of eerie blue light slams down from the ship, swallowing Illy whole. For a heartbeat, he hovers there, suspended between worlds. Then he's gone. The beam vanishes. The ship doesn't, it just hangs there, silent, as if waiting. And in that moment, every person in the room understands one terrible truth: first contact isn't about diplomacy. It's about destiny, and Illy, he was never just a child, he was the key. Now, as the eerie silence of the ship envelops him, Illy stirs. His eyelids flutter open to a sight no human was ever meant to witness. The chamber around him isn't built of metal or stone. It's crystalline, pulsing with a light that seems to breathe, and then he sees them, figures, translucent and shimmering, floating around him like echoes of a forgotten past. The Xal'thari, their forms are barely there, flickering in and out of existence, but their presence is overwhelming. Their mouths don't move, yet Illy hears them not in his ears, but in his mind. Their voices twist around his own, merging until he can't tell where his words end and theirs begin. "You are the bridge," the words vibrate through his bones. The cycle begins anew, and just like that, the walls around him ripple, dissolving into a vast, swirling star map. Stars, planets, entire systems flicker to life, but one burns brighter than the rest. Earth, the message is clear: This isn't just a reunion, it's a countdown, and Illy, he's not just a passenger anymore, he's the catalyst. But in the midst of the alien voices crowding his mind, something sparks, a flicker of human defiance. Illy claws his way back to himself, fighting against the tide of ancient whispers. His fingers scramble across the crystalline surface of the chamber, searching until they find it, a panel humming with unfamiliar energy. With every ounce of strength left in his small body, he slams his palm against it. The ship shudders in protest as an evacuation pod detaches violently, hurling him back toward Mars' surface. The impact is brutal, tossing him like a rag doll across the red sand just outside the research facility. Scientists rush toward him, but Illy barely sees them. His lips move, cracked and bleeding, forming words that send chills through everyone who hears them. They want to rebirth themselves inside us. Then his body gives out, his eyes rolling back as he collapses. The coma swallows him whole, but the warning lingers heavy, terrifying, and far too late to unhear. Because while Illy lies still, the ruins beneath the facility begin to stir. Something buried deep has heard him, and it's waking up. As chaos erupts inside the research facility, the outside world responds with brute force. Earth's military arrives in a storm of armored vehicles and shouting soldiers, sealing off the area under strict quarantine. The scientists plead with them, desperate to explain what they've witnessed: the alien language, the ruins stirring beneath their feet, the impossible truth Illy carried back from that ship. But General Cole, a man built on orders and firepower, cuts them off with a voice like grinding steel. This is a security threat, not a damn prophecy. His words hang in the air, final and dismissive. The researchers are shoved aside as the military sweeps in, treating Illy's fragile body like a contaminated specimen rather than a warning. Then, without any signal, the monitors around Illy's bed erupt with frantic beeping. His vitals spike wildly, his small body arching off the gurney. At that exact moment, a pulse ripples out from the ruins beneath them. Every light, every screen, every piece of technology in the facility dies at once. The soldiers' rifles go dark, their comms reduced to static. In the sudden silence, only one sound remains: the distant, shuddering groan of stone shifting deep below. Something buried for millennia is answering Illy's call, and the military's guns won't mean a thing against it. But in the darkness of the dead facility, a new horror takes shape. Illy's eyes flash open, no longer human, but burning with an eerie blue glow. His voice comes out steady, too calm for a child, as if something ancient speaks through him. The Xal'thari don't want worship. The ground shudders beneath their feet, dust raining from the ceiling. They want vessels, and as if summoned by those words, the floor cracks open. Clawed fingers, gray and withered, burst through the concrete. The first husk drags itself free, a nightmare of sinew and exposed bone, moving with jerky, unnatural purpose. The soldiers open fire, but the bullets pass right through its hollow ribs. It doesn't bleed, doesn't stagger, because Illy was right. You can't kill what's already dead. And this thing, it's been waiting underground for thousands of years. Now it's hungry, and the only language it understands is the one still whispering from Illy's lips. As the chaos unfolds, reinforcements arrive, but they're walking into a slaughter. Sergeant Ree Kane and her elite squad storm the facility, weapons locked and loaded, only to find Illy standing eerily still amidst the carnage. His warning cuts through the radio static before the first husk even appears. Your weapons can't kill what's already dead, and just like that, the nightmare proves him right. Bullets tear through the air, but the husks don't flinch, they don't bleed, they just keep coming, their hollow eyes fixed on the living. One by one, Ree's team falls, screams cut short, armor ripped like paper. She barely dodges a skeletal hand before it guts the soldier beside her. In seconds, the room goes quiet. Only Ree remains, breathing hard, her back against the wall as the husks turn toward her. But Illy's gaze locks onto hers, and for a heartbeat, the glow in his eyes flickers almost human again. "Run," he mouths, before the alien light swallows him whole. And Ree doesn't hesitate. She bolts, the echoes of her dead squad fueling her steps, because now she knows the truth. This isn't a rescue mission anymore. It's a fight for survival, and the only person who might hold the key to stopping this horror is the child they came to capture. But in the chaos, an unlikely alliance forms. Ree Kane, the lone survivor of her squad, stumbles into Dr. Liora Vasquez, the xenolinguist who first decoded Illy's alien words. Together, they drag the trembling child through the facility's crumbling corridors, husks screeching behind them. Then Illy stops dead in his tracks. His small hands grab a broken pipe, and with shocking precision, he carves symbols into the metal walls. The air hums as the markings glow crimson, and for the first time, the husks hesitate. The language isn't just words. Illy gasps, blood trickling from his nose. It's code. It rewrites reality. The symbols flicker like failing streetlights, buying them precious seconds. Dr. Vasquez stares at the child, really stares, and realizes the horrifying truth. Every word Illy speaks, every symbol he draws, is tearing him apart from the inside. But the husks are already adapting, their bony fingers clawing at the weakening barrier. Ree yanks Illy forward, her grip iron tight. "Move," she barks. Because if this kid is their only hope, they'll have to run faster than the apocalypse on their heels. And as the first husk bursts through the glowing symbols, one thing becomes terrifyingly clear: Illy's power has a price. And he might not survive paying it, but the truth is far worse than they imagined. As the trio takes shelter in a half-collapsed chamber of the ruins, Illy's fingers trace over ancient carvings, symbols even Dr. Vasquez doesn't recognize. His eyes glaze over, and for a moment his voice isn't his own. It's layered, echoing, as if 1,000 whispers speak through him. The Xal'thari didn't vanish, he murmurs. They were erased by their own weapon. The carvings shift under his touch, revealing a hidden pattern, a warning. The silence wasn't just a fail-safe, it was a reckoning. Vasquez's breath catches as the pieces click together. The husks, the ships, Illy's uncontrollable power. It's not an invasion. It's a reset. They're using you to undo their mistake, she says, horror dawning, but Illy shakes his head, his small frame trembling. "No, they're using me to finish it." The weapon that destroyed them was never meant to be stopped. It was meant to complete its purpose, to wipe the slate clean. And now, with Illy as their unwilling vessel, the Xal'thari are ready to correct the one error in their grand design: survival itself. The ruins shudder around them, as if waking from a long sleep. Time is running out, and the only question left is whether Illy can outsmart gods at their own game. But just as the weight of their discovery settles over them, the unthinkable happens. General Cole steps from the shadows, his movements jerky and unnatural, his eyes hollowed out by the same alien light that pulses through the ruins. His voice is wrong, too deep, too layered, like something else is speaking through him. "The child dies," he snarls, raising a weapon trembling in his grip. The code must be erased. Sergeant Ree Kane doesn't hesitate. She shoves Illy behind her, firing at Cole even as husks pour in from the tunnels. "Run," she shouts to Vasquez, buying them seconds with sheer stubborn courage. But Cole isn't human anymore. He shrugs off bullets like rain, closing in with terrifying purpose. That's when Illy screams, not in fear, but in fury. A single, guttural word tears from his throat, one that makes the air itself vibrate. General Cole erupts into flames, his body crumbling to ash mid-step, but the cost is written in Ili's face, his nose bleeding, his skin paling as he sways. The word was power, but it's eating him alive, and the ruins aren't done with them yet. The walls begin to crack, glowing lines spreading like veins, as if the entire structure is waking up. Time's up, the silence is coming, and Ili is the only one who can stop it or unleash it. With every second counting, Vasquez tightens her grip on Ili, half dragging, half carrying him deeper into the ruins. The ground shudders beneath them as the ancient structure groans awake, its walls pulsing with that same eerie light. Ili's breath comes in ragged gasps, his small body trembling from the weight of what he's already done, what he still has to do. "I have to speak the last word," he whispers again, his voice barely audible over the distant hum of approaching ships. "But it'll kill me." Vasquez doesn't slow down. She can't. Behind them, the cracks in the walls spread wider, tendrils of energy snaking through the stone like living things. The air smells like ozone and something older, something hungry. Above, the sky churns with the silhouettes of more Xal'thari vessels, their shadows blotting out the stars. Time isn't just running out, it's screaming toward an ending. And in the heart of the ruins, the core waits, a chamber humming with the promise of annihilation or salvation. Ili's the key, but the price, everything. As the last echoes of their footsteps fade into the chamber, the ruins shudder to life around them. The walls dissolve into light, revealing a holographic nightmare, the final moments of the Xal'thari. Vasquez watches, horrified, as the projection unfolds. The ancient gods didn't fall to war or time. They were erased by their own creation, a weapon meant to elevate them beyond mortality. Instead, it consumed them. The lesson is clear. Some power was never meant to be wielded, but Ili doesn't flinch. His small frame trembles, not with fear, but with resolve. The activation sequence spills from his lips, each syllable sharper than the last. The chamber answers. Energy crackles along the floor, racing toward the center where the weapon, the silence, waits. And then the husks come, dozens of them, pouring through the cracks, their hollow eyes fixed on Ili. Vasquez raises her rifle, but she already knows the truth. Bullets won't stop what's already dead. Time's up. The final word hangs in the air, unspoken. One breath, one choice, and the fate of two species balances on the voice of a child. With no time left to hesitate, Vasquez braces herself against the onslaught. The pulse rifle hums in her hands, each shot buying Ili precious seconds. The husks keep coming, their hollow bodies absorbing the blasts like shadows swallowing light. But she doesn't stop, can't stop. Behind her, Ili's voice rises, the ancient words twisting the air itself. The chamber trembles, cracks spiderwebbing up the walls as raw energy gathers at the center. The silence is waking up. Vasquez grits her teeth, firing again and again until the rifle overheats. Then she does the only thing left. She turns and screams at Ili over the chaos. "Do it now." And in that moment, the child's eyes flare with something beyond human. The final word leaves his lips, and the world turns white. And then, silence. Not just any silence, the kind that comes after the storm, heavy and absolute. Ili's voice cracks the air one last time, and the world erupts in white. A wave of energy, pure and unforgiving, rolls outward like a tide. Every husk, every ship, every trace of the Xal'thari dissolves into nothingness, as if they were never there at all. The chamber, once trembling with violence, falls still, but the cost is written in the light flickering around Ili's small form. His knees buckle, and as he collapses, his body begins to fade not into darkness, but into something brighter, something beyond. His last words are barely audible, a whisper carried on the stillness. "They're free now, and so am I." The weight of those words hangs in the air, a final gift and a goodbye. The ruins, now lifeless, crumble around Vasquez, leaving only dust and the echo of a child who spoke the language of gods. And in that moment, she understands, some victories are measured in sacrifices, not survivals. But the story doesn't end there. As Vasquez staggers out of the ruins, the weight of what just happened presses down on her like a second gravity. The dust settles around her, but the air feels charged, electric, like the universe itself is holding its breath. Earth's military forces swarm the site, their boots kicking up clouds of debris, their scanners sweeping for any sign of Ili or the alien threat, but there's nothing. No bodies, no wreckage, not even a whisper of the Xal'thari's presence. Only Vasquez remains, her hand clenched tight around the one piece of evidence that any of it was real. A single, pulsing symbol burned into her palm, glowing faintly as if answering a call only it can hear. The soldiers demand answers, but she can't find the words. How do you explain the unexplainable? How do you describe a child who spoke in dead tongues and vanished into light? The symbol on her skin thrums, a quiet reminder that Ili's sacrifice was just the beginning, and as the first drops of rain begin to fall, washing the dust from her face, Vasquez realizes the truth. This isn't over. The language of the gods isn't gone, it's just waiting. Meanwhile, in a high-security lab buried deep beneath the surface, a lone scientist leans over his workstation, studying the strange symbol under a flickering blue light. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than an intricate scar, but then it pulses just once, like a heartbeat. His breath catches as thin tendrils of light begin spreading from the edges, branching out across his skin like roots. The symbol isn't just glowing anymore, it's growing. His reflection in the glass shows eyes that aren't entirely his own, flickering with that same eerie radiance Ili once carried. It's a message, he whispers more to himself than to the empty room, and a warning. His fingers twitch toward a comms panel, but the light in his eyes flares brighter, freezing him in place. Somewhere beyond the lab's reinforced walls, other symbols ignite on other hands, unseen but undeniable. The language isn't just alive, it's multiplying. And whatever it's trying to say, humanity might not be ready to hear it. But the story doesn't end there. Vasquez, now a fugitive from Earth's government, makes a desperate play. She hijacks a global broadcast, flooding every screen with Ili's final recordings. Static crackles as his voice fills the airwaves, speaking in that same otherworldly tongue, and this time millions hear it. The Xal'thari are gone, Vasquez warns, her face gaunt but determined, but their language lives. And it's waking up something worse. Behind her, footage rolls of Jupiter's moons, where ancient ruins identical to those on Mars pulse with the same eerie light. The public reaction is instant panic, disbelief, a scramble for answers. Governments try to shut it down, but it's too late. The words are out, and somewhere in the quiet of their homes, children who have never met Ili begin to whisper back. But the whispers don't stop, they spread. In cities, in villages, in places untouched by the chaos unfolding on Mars and Jupiter, children begin speaking in their sleep, words no human should know. The same phrases Ili once chanted, now spilling from the lips of the young across the globe, their voices eerily synchronized, as if pulled by some unseen force. Governments react with fear, not understanding. They raid homes, silence broadcasts, even lock children away, desperate to contain what they can't comprehend. But Dr. Liora Vasquez has seen this before. She knows the cost of ignorance. I won't let them weaponize another Ili, she vows, her voice raw with determination. While the world panics, she moves in the shadows, tracking down these children before the authorities can. because she's learned the terrible truth. The Xal'thari language isn't just alive. It's multiplying, and if history repeats itself, these children aren't just speaking to the past, they're calling to something new, something hungry. Deep beneath the surface, far from prying eyes, the real work begins. In a reinforced bunker shielded from detection, Dr. Liora Vasquez gathers the children the world tried to silence. These young speakers, each marked by the Xal'thari language whispering through their dreams, now stand before her, not as threats but as the last hope. Vasquez moves between them, her voice steady as she demonstrates how to shape the alien words without letting them shape you. The language is a tool, she insists, not a master. You control it or it controls you. One by one, the children repeat the phrases, their voices trembling at first, then growing stronger. At the center of the room, Vasquez lifts Illy's weathered journal, its pages filled with frantic scribbles and warnings. She turns to the final entry, where his handwriting, once shaky, now resolved, reads, "The gods are dead, but the words are alive." A hush falls over the group. Then, from the back of the room, the youngest child gasps, their eyes flicker, then ignite with the same eerie glow Illy once bore. Vasquez doesn't flinch. She steps closer, kneeling to meet their gaze. "Good," she murmurs, "now show me what they're saying." The bunker's lights hum, the air thick with anticipation. Outside, governments hunt for answers, for weapons, for someone to blame. But here in the dark, something new stirs, not a reckoning, not an invasion. A rebellion one fought not with guns, but with the very words the Xal'thari left behind. And as the children's voices rise in unison, harmonizing with the hum of the bunker's walls, Vasquez allows herself a grim smile. The gods may be gone, but their language, it's just getting started. If you found this journey as gripping as we did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales where humanity stands tall against the unknown. Ring the notification bell so you never miss when the next story drops, because trust us, you won't want to. Until then, keep wondering, what if the words we speak aren't just ours?